So now we go into some probability questions. Two ordinary six-sided dice are rolled. Okay, so you have one die, and then you have another die. You're rolling a pair of dice. Okay, and what's the probability of getting a sum of 8? So the two die are going to total to 8. Well, you can't have a 1 and 7 because there's no 7 on the die. So that won't work. But you could have a 2 and a 6. That adds up to 8. Or you could have a 6 and a 2, right? Like those are two different ways. You could have a 3 and a 5, or you could have a 5 and a 3. It makes a difference which dice is which. Okay, or which die is which. And then you have a 4 and a 4. Now that one, you can't switch it around because they're both still 4, right? Okay, so there are 5 different ways that you can get a sum of 8. Okay, so what's the probability? Well, how many different combinations can you get? You have 6 choices for the first die, and you have 6 choices for the second. So there are 36 total outcomes of the event. Okay, that's how many different outcomes we can get. And there are 5 choices for getting 5. So the probability of an event, it's the number of ways you can get the event divided by the number of the results. Like, how many different combinations are there? Okay. So in this case, it's going to be 5 out of 8. So probably a longer answer than you wanted. Okay. And you can look that up in the book or watch the other videos that might explain it better for you. Okay, if one card is randomly selected from a deck of cards, we're talking a 52 card deck, what's the probability of selecting a king or a queen? Now, is that mutually exclusive? Yes, mutually exclusive. How do I know? So they're mutually exclusive events. You can't pull a king and a queen at the same time. It can be a king or it can be a queen, but it can't be both at the same time. That's what makes it mutually exclusive events. Okay, so what's the probability of getting a king or a queen? Well, it's going to be the probability of getting a king plus the probability of getting a queen. So what's the probability of getting a king? How many kings are there in the deck? 4 out of the 52. And what's the probability of getting a queen? How many queens are there? 4 out of the 52. So what does that equal? 8 out of 52. Does that simplify? Yes. 4 goes in 2 and 4 goes in 13. So we usually reduce those and leave it as a fraction. So the probability is 2/13. Okay. So now it looks like we have some other review type problems. If you have a function and you want to find this, you're going to plug that in, right? So f of a minus 2 is equal to 2 times a minus 2 squared minus 7 times a minus 2. This is called evaluating a function, and we've done this before, hopefully. A squared plus, minus 4a plus 4. Now that comes from taking a minus 2 times a minus 2. A times a is a squared, and I get a minus 2a and a minus 2a. That makes the minus 4a, and then negative 2 times negative 2 is plus 4. That's FOIL. Okay. That's how we got this parenthesis part. Okay. And then I'll just write minus 7 times a minus 2 for now, because I'm going to distribute anyway in a second. All right, distributing 2a squared minus 8a plus 8 minus 7a plus 14 plus 3. So watch your signs, but we're distributing negative 7a, positive 14. Okay, now what can I combine? I get 2a squared. I got a minus 8a and a minus 7a, minus 15a. And then I've got an 8 and a 14 and a 3. What's that? 17 and 8, 25? I will say that. Usually they want it as a polynomial. Okay. Find the inverse of the function. How do we find an inverse? Well, it's those 4 steps. First, you replace f of x with y. Then you switch x and y. Now you have to solve for y. How are you going to get rid of a cubed root? Well, you're going to have to cube both sides. You're going to have to raise both sides to the third power. That gives you x cubed equals, and then over here, you're just going to have y minus 5 because the cubed root and the cubing cancel each other out. Okay, now you're trying to solve for y, so you just have to add the 5 over. So I'm going to go over here and write y equals x cubed plus 5. And then I'm going to put in the inverse notation. That's the last step. Ah, it's a 5. Okay, there we go. That's how we find the inverse. I think that's it for this page.